Hey kids, it's Mama. Listen kids, we're going to kind of dig into some things today and just talk real candidly and openly. As you can probably tell from this title of the video, we're going to be talking about anxiety and mental health and talking about what that even really means. So, here we go. I'm going to start with a little story here. I'm a person who deals with anxiety daily. And if you're not real close to me, then you probably don't know that, but I do. And it's a rough time, kids. Like, it's not a real fun time. I ain't gonna lie about it. And so when I was first kind of diagnosed with anxiety, I was a junior in high school, and what kind of led me to go and check this out is I would just be sitting here just like I'm doing right now, literally doing nothing, and my chest would get tight, my breath would get short, I would just start feeling kind of nauseous, just all of a sudden. But what concerned me the most was how tight my chest would just randomly get and how I could not breathe. Now, my first thought was, okay, I have asthma. Like, there's something in my lungs. I've got fluid on my lungs or something. Like, something is causing my chest to, constrict. So I go to my family doctor, and I'm telling him what's going on. And I'm like, this isn't normal for me. I've never had this happen before. And so he does all kinds of x-rays and exams, and he's checking out my lungs, and he's listening to them. Can't find anything wrong. And so he tells me that. And I said, well, then, like, what are these random symptoms that I'm having? Because this is not normal for me. And he said, well, are you concerned about anything when these symptoms start happening? And I'm like, well, no, I mean, I don't think. I was like, maybe I'm thinking about a test, or maybe I'm thinking about this or that or whatever. And he said, I think you have anxiety. Excuse me, what? Because at the time, I did not know that anxiety is a disorder. I did not know that that is a condition. And because, when I heard the word anxiety, I just thought, you have anxiety about this, you have anxiety about that. But it's not like a constant daily thing, and it's not something that you struggle with. It's just something that happens every now and then. Well, turns out that's not really the case. So I don't really take my doctor's diagnosis, if you will, too seriously. I'm like, oh, well, thank God it's not like anything serious. Like, I thought there was something really wrong with my lungs. And he says, well, anxiety is kind of serious. He said, just keep a check on how you're feeling. And, he says, I think you're too young for any kind of medication, but, just come back and see me if symptoms progress. All right, cool, whatever, doc, I'm good, I was a junior in high school. I was like, medication? Puh. Get out of here. Like, I don't need medication for anxiety. What, are you kidding me? Okay, so fast forward to present day. Turns out I do have terrible anxiety. Turns out it really is a terrible condition. And I think as I kind of went through the rest of high school, and especially in college, oh, good grief. When I went through college, y'all, many a night, my chest was tight and I could not breathe. But as these symptoms happened again, I was like, oh, it's just anxiety. I just got to chill out. I just got to chill out. Okay, all right. Well, for those of you who do have anxiety, then you know that it's not just so simple to just chill out. I mean, it's really hard when you're in the midst of an anxiety attack to kind of get your brain to calm down long enough to chill out, So, present day. Recently, I kind of did some thinking, and I realized that I am still struggling with this anxiety. I don't know so much if a disorder is what I should call it, or a condition, but I'm still struggling daily with this. And it really became more evident to me over the weekend. We had gone out to eat with some friends. Me and my boyfriend had gone out to eat with some friends. We're hanging out, we're chilling, we're having a good time. And somehow or another, and I kind of go into more detail about this in the blog post that I wrote, which is in the description down below. So if you guys feel so led, please go read it. I love you guys so much. Thank you for your support. So I kind of like, when we're kind of just joking around, hanging out, whatever, I responded to a joke in such a way that I was being funny and playing around, but the way that I came across, I felt like I was being a total jerk, and that made me feel terrible. So much so that when we're getting in the car to go home, I looked at my boyfriend and I'm like, I was kind of a jerk back there, huh? And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, you know, like when I was just like playing back with you guys and like I feel like I came off a little harsh. And he's like, he didn't even know what I was talking about. But I thought, oh my gosh, I have to call our friends and apologize before I put my head on the pillow tonight, because I'm going to feel like a crap person if I don't. So I called my friend and I was like, hey, you know, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to come off that way. And she's like, girl, what are you even talking about? Like, she didn't know what I was talking about either. My point is, nobody else at the table even thought anything about me joking back other than I was just joking back. They didn't think I was being ugly or hateful or rude or snappy or whatever. I was the only one that was thinking that I was being a jerk. But because my anxiety, because like this little teeny little nugget got in my head, and my anxiety was like, oh, well, you're a crap person. Like, you, nobody wants to talk to you. You're just a jerk, you know? You better call them and apologize. So, like, my anxiety was just sending my brain into a tailspin, and I'm like, I've got to make amends before I go to bed tonight. Otherwise, it's going to drive me nuts. So this is what I'm talking about with just, and I let like the tiniest of stuff get into my head. And, you know, if you struggle with anxiety, and I think we probably all have like that little voice in our head that's always telling us like, you screwed up, kid, you know, like it's always that jerk voice that we have in our head that's always cutting us down. And I definitely have that. And it is so loud sometimes. And so, part of me getting into shape this year for 2019, hashtag my year, you know, I'm trying to get into physical shape, but I realize that mental shape is just as important as physical. Because, you know, everything kind of starts here. 75% of being in shape is here. You know, so if I can get a handle on my head and get a handle on this anxiety and get a handle on not letting my brain go into like a tailspin anytime I make a joke, you know, I think I would be doing pretty great. But the thing about it is, I'm not entirely sure what the steps are to get a handle on this. Writing does help me quite a bit. It does kind of help me to kind of, you know, put everything out of my head and onto paper and just kind of like rationalize better. You know, but I need to figure out, first of all, I need to figure out how to not let that voice in my head that's always being like, you're a jerk, kid. I need to figure out how to shut that voice down. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you're constantly just fueling your brain full of negativity and you're constantly fueling yourself with, you're a jerk, you're a terrible person, you got to do better, you're not good enough, then that's what you'll be. I mean, you're not going to be good enough because you're going to keep telling yourself that you're not. So if we could just figure out how to turn that off and constantly pump ourselves full of positivity and love ourselves, which is really hard for me to do too, which is a whole nother video for a whole nother day. But I love myself, but I'm not always fair to myself, if that makes sense. You know, a lot of times I don't want to boast, like, well, not boast. I don't want to tell myself that I'm doing good for fear that I'll do bad, if that makes any sense at all. Again, my anxiety. constantly spinning my head around and around and around. You know, so, but I got to get out of that. And especially for this new year, it is my goal this year to get that under control, or to at least figure out how to better manage it so that I don't feel like a prisoner in my own head sometimes. Because it's not a fun place to be at. And if you struggle with the same kind of things, then you get it. Furthermore, one of the main reasons that I wanted to talk about this today is just because I don't feel like enough is talked about mental health and about anxiety. I think that, you know, for me at least, I don't really tell people that I have anxiety. You know, I don't really just go around saying, hey, I have anxiety, tread lightly with me. You know, I mean, obviously it's not really something that's talked about, but I think that it's okay to talk out loud about it. You know, don't look for sympathy, but it's okay to talk about it. Because I think that it's not talked about enough. And so people kind of suffer silently for so long. And I just think, you know, if we shine some more light on that and on mental health as a whole, I think that would be really great. I think it could be really great for our society. Perhaps I have bigger dreams. I don't know. I just think that, you know, if we could talk more candidly about these things, I think that would be fantastic. And I don't know that we would have as many, you know, I don't know. I don't want to say not as much crime, but I just don't think that we would hear about as much crazy stuff on the news if, you know, we could just talk about, hey, it's okay that you have anxiety. That's okay. Let's just figure out how to manage it. So my goal with this channel, as well as my blog this year, while focusing on physical health, while focusing on different aspects of trying to get like into a better space for me personally, I also want to talk to you guys very candidly about my steps going through how to figure out going through getting a handle on this anxiety, and how I plan to get a better mental health overall for the year. So you guys stay tuned. I appreciate your love and support so much. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate it. And I will just talk to you guys soon. Bye, kids.